Okay, reverse engineering. Tom and I each have a story about this. I have no clue what Tom's story is, but here's my story. When I started my pond company 15 years ago, I was 44 years old, and I had already had another successful business that I sold 6 years before that, and I was teaching in the gyms, teaching spinning and other group exercise classes. And this whole pond thing, I won't bore you with that story how it came about, but I decided that if I'm going to go back into be a blue collar worker, get in a pickup truck, and drive around to make my money somehow, that I wanted to make $1,000 a day. That was in my mindset. Now, I was talking to Ben before, and he sells like he buys, so we get stuck in our own brain. Well, my first job, I made a lot of money, 800 grand a year, which is like 1.3, 1.4 million a year in today's money. Then my second job, spinning, I was making $18,000 a year, which is like $18,000 a year. So the disparaging was killing me. But I like to make money, so I figured $1,000 a day had a nice ring to it, and so I didn't go out if I wasn't going to make $1,000. If you called me up, said, Steve, will you cut my grass today? I'd say, yep, it's $1,000. But if you get your neighbor to cut their grass, I'll do you each for 500. And I stood my ground. I made 80,000 bucks. I put 80 grand my first in my pocket the first year I went out there. And trust me, it was me, my pickup truck, going back and forth to Home Depot, buying these little pumps to get these little spitter fountains ready. I was doing that all day long because I was just brand new. Nobody was calling me to put ponds or stuff in there. So that's how I got the basis of what I charge for everything. I know I stood up on stage a few years back and everybody thought I was crazy, but that's kind of how it all started. I just reverse engineered the whole thing. I figured out first how much money I want to make, and then I charged accordingly. It was really nothing more than that. Does that make sense to you out there, folks? I know it's crazy, because most of us go into business because we just want to paint or carpet or pond, but we end up with the money we end up with instead of reverse engineering the whole process.
Stephen, before I share mine, I want to point to something you and I have talked about before. Is you've pointed a lot of the success you've had not only in your swimming pool business back in the day, but more recently the pond business is you because you reverse engineered it and you had your own goal of what you wanted to do. You didn't pay attention to what everyone else in the industry was doing, and that's kind of served you pretty well, huh?
Yeah, everything I do, I did in a vacuum all by myself. I just figured everybody else did the same thing. And then, boy, was I surprised when I found out that I was the weirdo and everybody else was, for the most part, doing, following the lemons right off the cliffside.
So my reverse engineering is we started Simplify Painting in February out here, and I hired Kelsey. And my goal when I started Simplify Painting was I had a clear end in sight. Just like Steve had his $1,000 a day, my clear end in sight is $30,000 a year for Tom from a painting company that he doesn't have to spend more than an hour a month on. Okay, and I'm just about to the point where I don't have to spend much more than an hour a week with Kelsey. Now I'm not making 30 grand a year yet, but it's not also not my main source of income. So we reversed engineered this business to say if $1,000 comes in, we are going to give $500 to our sub. Kelsey is going to get her 20% right off the top, and the rest comes down into the overhead of the business, and Tom is going to walk with 10% of the income. So we reverse engineer it. We built a percentage-based business in this industry. So for me to walk with 30 grand for me, we just need to do 300 grand, which is not hard to do in the painting industry. So I would say have a clear end in sight for what you want from your business. Kelsey and I had lunch today, and our goal is not to build $1 million painting company. It's not to build a $500,000 painting company. It's to build a kick-ass $300,000 a year business that she's going to make 60 to 75 a year from on autopilot because we got a good team in place and we pay them 2.5 times the industry average here.